I'm here at the stacked dado head table saw where I am preparing to cut the rabbet on the top edge of the cricket table legs. I've got my legs right here. They're finished sanded on the faces and the roundovers, so make sure that you are at that point first before doing this step. The faces and the edges need to be rounded and sanded and rounded. So just double check that you're at that point. What I'm going to do next is I need to take a look at the faces of my legs, and I need to determine what is the good face. So I'm going to take a look at all of these just really quickly, and I want the good face up on the table. So I'm just looking at the grain, the color, making sure that what I want is going to be facing out, because this is the only opportunity you're going to have of doing this process. If you miss it, you're going to end up with a face that you didn't anticipate. So my legs are stacked face up. I'm going to set up the fence to where it needs to be aligned with the stacked dado head. If it is out of the way over here, talk with me, let me know that you're ready to do this, and this is something that I can take care of for you. This isn't going to take very long to do. And then I also will need to check the height of the cut, and I'm going to do that right here with my little scrap piece of MDF. So I'm going to check and see how deep it is. The depth is right where I need it, and it's at the width that I need. The only thing that you're going to need to be aware of with this particular process is the need for safety glasses. When you are cutting your legs, as it's exiting this back edge, you're going to have a lot of grain blowout, and it does take people a little bit off guard at how much actually blows out. And if you don't have your glasses on, it can get in your face and it's going to get in your eyes. So make sure you have your safety glasses on for this specific process. You should have them on anyway, but this is one process where if you get caught off guard, you're going to have some pretty nasty stuff in your eyes. So for this process, I'm going to be standing right where the camera is standing right now. I'm going to make sure that you keep this top edge up against the fence, and where your hands are placed, it's quite simple. Your middle fingers are going to track right where this miter gauge slot is in the top of the table saw. So I'm going to hold on to it just like this. Now just keep in mind that my fingertips are on the edges, both in the front and the back. I need to make sure that I'm keeping the leg up against the fence for this entire cut. If I happen to wander away from it at all, I'm just going to stop, bring the leg away from the fence, and I'm just going to start over with the process. If you do accidentally come away, it's honestly not a big deal. It happens from time to time, but you want to make sure that you have a cut all the way across that is nice and even. So I'm going to start this up, and I'm going to make these 3 cuts. My next step after cutting the rabbet at the top of your cricket table legs is to cut the angles on the edges of your stiles to prepare them for gluing into your base. So I'm going to set up at the table saw and take care of that cut next. Here at the table saw, I'm set up to do the cut on my cricket table leg stiles for the angle to be able to glue up the base in the triangle shape. I have my blade tipped over at 30 degrees, and I've got my fence set for the 0 mark. Notice that the guard has been replaced, it has been removed from the saw, so this process has to be done by me. This is not something that can be done by students. So with the blade at 30 degrees and with the fence at 0, I'm ready to do my cuts on the stiles. So here we go. I am going to need to use my dust mask and my hearing protection because this cut is actually pretty loud. All right, with the miters cut on your stiles, you are ready to get set up and glue up your base. So that's my next step, is I'm going to go over to one of the workbenches and get set up for gluing. Back here at the workbench, I'm set up to glue my base together. I want to have it laid out like this, and in order to do the gluing properly, you need to make sure that these top joints right here are even. So when they get put together, like so, these surfaces right here are going to be even. This is a very critical point. If they're off by even just a little bit, when the top sits down on them, they're not going to set flat. It'll be a little bit cockeyed one way or the other. So this right here has to be nice and even when you do this glue up. So I'm going to set them down in position. I'm looking right here up at the top. I want these 2 points to come together. I've got a roll of masking tape. I have a bucket of these clamping blocks, and you're also going to need 12 of these mini bar clamps. I call them mini bar clamps, they're just bar clamps, but you need 12 of these. You're going to put 4 on each leg, 4 on each joint. So you can use the 6 inches, you can use the 12 inches, it really doesn't matter, but you need 12 of them. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a length of tape right down the length of the joint. And I'm going to stop it shy of the bottom. I don't want it to overhang it all. It'll actually ruin the joint if it overhangs it all. And then I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to press down nice and hard so that I get a really good joint. Now I'm going to take the pieces, just small pieces, and I'm going to bridge the gap in 5 different spots. I'm going to put these on and then I'll explain why I put them where I did. Before you start doing this, it is a good idea to take all the dust off the surface. If there is any dust where the tape is going, it can actually ruin the adhesion of the tape, and you won't get the result that you need to. You'll have the tape joints will pop free, and that's not a good thing. So again, I'm just pressing across here. Now, the reason that I put these pieces of tape in these specific spots is because of the glue blocks. I'm going to put a set right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I put a block over the piece of tape, because of the clamping action that I'm going to be putting on here and the pressure, it's going to really put a lot of pressure on that tape, and it's going to make it very difficult to remove. So in order to lessen the possibility of fighting the tape to peel it off later, I don't want to put tape where these blocks have to go. So just remember, I've got a block here at the very top, one in the middle in this section, one at the bottom of this section, and then one more pair below the bottom rail. So just place the tape accordingly where these blocks are not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to put tape over on this joint, and then I'll come back and I'll go through the process of applying the glue. I wanted to come down here and get a little bit closer view of what we're looking at for the tape. So we've got, first piece was the piece that goes the length of the style, and then we come back and we strategically place these cross bands, 5 of them, along the length of the style, and we're doing that on both joints at this point. My next step, I'm going to flip this leg assembly over and I'm going to start laying down the glue. For this glue up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply 3 narrow small beads down the length of the stiles on one side of the joint, just the one side. So 1, 2, 3. So just to give you an idea of what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a Sharpie. I'm going to run a bead about right here, another bead about right here, and another bead about right here. Okay, if they're evenly placed, that's all right, but if they're a little bit ski-wampus like that, it should be okay, because the glue is going to, once you put your 2 pieces together and fold it together, it will spread that glue out nice and even. So this is a very quick job. From the time that you start laying down the glue till you have all of your clamps and your blocks on, you're looking at as little as 5 minutes or as long as 8. So 5 to 8 minutes is a very short window to have your glue down, your blocks on, and your clamps on. I'm doing this solo, so I'm going to have to take this a little bit more slowly, but at the same time I've got to be very quick about it. So once you start laying down the glue, it would be a really good idea to have somebody on reserve to help you get the blocks and the clamps on. Your helper should be working on the blocks, you need to be working on the clamps. So that does raise another point. Before you start doing any gluing, take all of your mini clamps and open the jaws completely all the way. This is a very critical step because you're going to be clamping them down to about that point. And if this is something that you have to do in addition to getting the clamps and the blocks on, it's just extra seconds that you don't want to waste. So take all of your clamps at this point and open them all the way up just like this, and have them stacked closely where your helper is going to be very close to you. So you're going to have a bucket of these blocks, and I've got my bucket down here on the floor. So you've got this bucket of blocks that you're going to need. So ask me for these. They actually might be right outside of the office, right next to the laser engraver. So if you don't see this bucket of blocks, and if you don't see blocks in it, just let me know, and I do have another bucket. It just kind of depends on how many of these projects that I have going together. So just look for these outside my office next to the laser engraver, and have this on hand, really close at hand as well. In fact, I think I'm just going to have this over here out of the way for right now. So my next step, just open up all of the clamps and open up the threaded part as well, back all the way out. Alright, at this point I have my clamps taken care of. I've got my bucket of blocks over here really close to me. I've got my bottle of glue right here as well. And one thing that you're going to want to make sure of as well before you start doing any of this, make sure that hole in your glue bottle is open. If there's any blockage on it at all, you're going to want to take care of it. If you're not quite sure what to do, come talk to me. It'll take me just a few seconds to get that taken care of. So you want to make sure that that glue bottle opening is just that, very open. And I'm going to start laying down the glue. And as soon as I'm done laying up the glue, or laying down the glue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in kind of tight so you can see what's going on. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about right here. There are 3 narrow beads of glue. They have started to run just a little bit, but it's not a big deal. Again, once you start folding your joints together, it's going to be just fine. Once you have your glue beads down, go ahead and fold it together and put it up on its bottom. These are the joints that you need to pay most attention to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pieces of tape and I'm going to put the same five pieces that I've put along here, and I'm going to do the same thing along this joint. This is the joint that doesn't have a tape hinge on it. So I'm going to bring it together, put it along the top first, and I want this to be even, perfectly even. And then put the tape on it. I am pulling it a little bit tight so that I have a really good little bit of pressure along the joint, but I'm not pulling on it so hard that this corner tears it. Oops. So there is a fine line between pulling it too tight and having it break. And I have some extras. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting my blocks on. I start up here at the top. And I'm going to grab a clamp. Oops, a little bit too far. So this is where it's very handy to have a second pair of hands. Start at the top, and you're not putting these on tight yet. You're just getting everything on. I'm going to put the one at the top and the one at the bottom on first. Looks like I'm going to have it closed just a little bit in order to be able to do what I need it to do. This is why you need a second person. And then I'm going to go to a different location, a different joint. Only put two on at a time, because if you put all four on one side, it's going to get really weighted, and you're going to have to fight it, and it's just not worth the battle. Yep, it really helps to have a second pair of hands to do this. Once you have your two clamps on each leg, come back and start putting your other two on. Again, all you're trying to do is get them on. You're not tightening anything down solidly yet. You just got to get them all on. Now that I have all four clamps on each leg, I'm going to go back and I'm going to tighten up each individual clamp. And I don't need to go crazy on this. I'm just getting them all tight. Sometimes they will pop off. It's not uncommon that they pop off. Sometimes these blocks will actually break. If they break, just grab another one and put it back on. That's all you can do. Not exactly sure what happened there, but it can be fixed. Okay, once you are done putting all your clamps on, you're going to leave this assembly on the workbench to dry. When you come back, I will have taken off the clamps and the blocks, and I'll put everything away. Your base will be inside the project storage room, right inside on the right hand side of the door on the floor. So when you're done with this, it is a really good idea to write your name on this inside edge. I had my name written here on the top, but remember I had to take that out for the rabbet joint, so I am going to put my name right back in here so it doesn't get 5-finger discounted. So make sure that you have your name on there where it's visible so people can see it. That way you don't have to worry about it growing legs and walking off. So this is done. Our next step is to move on to getting a blank for our bottom shelf. And that's what I'm going to be working on in the next video.